can be mortal.
We certainly are mere mortals. Welcome back to another edition of the Musings here with the mere mortals. You've got Juan on one side.
And you've got Karen here.
17th of January, 2024. Whoa, man, it's already going pretty quickly.
It is.
Yeah. My mum actually mentioned to me recently, she said, I'm getting some stuff ready because she does arts and craft for Valentine's Day. Mm-hmm. I was like, damn, that's actually around the corner. That's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it
so,
is, yeah.
Time moves quickly, but today in the Musings, we want to talk about relationships. Now, I presented this one to Karen initially about talking on, again, a deeper topic. We like to philosophize about deep topics with a lighthearted touch in general. And I said, let's talk about friendships. What makes a good friend? And you wanted to explore it further into relations, more like relationships in general, just relations.
Yeah, I just didn't have nothing really
Too
came to
specificity.
me. Yeah.
Now, the reason this actually came up, why I want to talk about this topic, a couple of weeks ago, I was talking with my partner, and she presented this particular idea of, in one hand, I kind of have it easy in terms of our friendship group, but in another part, it was just a conversation of friends and what makes a good friend, and she's had some issues with some previous friends that she's had in her group around they either don't, they're not communicative enough, or they're not present when they need to be, and all these sort of qualities.
Okay.
And I was kind of presenting that, look, in the large part, myself personally, it's not like I need a gigantic group of friends, a huge amount of people, but when I do have the friends that I have, it's enough, and it's been enough for like a really long time. I haven't had to explore or find some others. Now you have maybe over the last couple of years kind of ventured out and find other friendship groups for other spaces that you participate in. For me, largely, I haven't. I've been sticking around to the things I've been doing. Sure, I build friendships in, areas that I'm interested in, fitness, work-wise. And so that's where the thought of it all came around, because obviously you've been exploring different friendships. I had this conversation with a partner around what makes a good friend and the qualities. But I also wanted to, explore it further. So we're talking relations, we're talking as a father, as a, in general, as a mere mortal to another mere mortal. What makes a good mere mortal connection? And I try to think of things that weren't like the usual. So yes, we could talk about the like real usual, very common, very general things. But I tried to dig down and be like, okay, let's make it interesting. Let's make it interesting things that maybe we wouldn't talk about. Because I think the general plane of like, I want them to be honest, and I want them to be, energetic, and I want them to be, someone who cares about me. I think those are all good qualities, and we could probably explore them if we need to. But I have a couple of interesting ones. So that's how I wanted to drive at least the conversation today.
Sounds good.
So if you've got some as well, throw them.
I got two main topics, but
okay,
we'll start with yours.
We'll go with mine. Let's go. And more lights if you're on the live as well. We do these live, 7 p.m. Australian Standard Time. Drop it in the chat as well. Let me know about it.
We'd love to.
Now, I call this one Build Up Memory Lane. Build up memory lane. So what I mean by this. So whether it's in any relation, again, I'm thinking these sometimes in friend, but I'll try to explore it into different areas. What makes a good, and of course it's coming from the bias of what I think would make it good, but I think in general, building up memory lane is something that you want to exhibit in the people that you're connecting with. And what I mean by that is, whether it's you to them or them to you, you want to build up the memory bank for future conversations, or the activities, the explorations that will make for memorable moments. If I kind of like think back to like our friendship group, so specifically our friendship group, if we sat around, we said, hey, let's get together and let's go have a couple of drinks, or let's go have dinner, whatever it may be, or a partner, and you sat down and then you talked about the day-to-day events. Hey, this happened. Hey, we're going to go do this, kind of future-facing, or like this is what's happening now. I went, there's one like really critical thing that I would always want to come back and explore, and it's memory lane. It's, do you remember that time that we kicked the teacher's bag? Do you remember when we went to this place and we did this? And you almost, you gel the good times of the past to the present, and you almost amalgamate something even better, and you continue going. I went, I think from me to others and others to me, I go, we need to have the ability, or to have a good relation, build up memory lane in some way, shape, or form. If I was connecting with people, they were connecting with me, and they didn't want to build up memory lane, if it was more transactional, if I saw people, and in general, this can be, an example would be a workplace. I have people in the workplace who are relations. Like I know them, but I'm not going to make it into a relationship because I'm not building any memory lane with them. It's, hey, you know my name, I know you, I know who you are in generality, so do I. But give it 7 years, and if we're connected again, I'm not going to go, oh, hey, do you remember that time that we did this or this happened? It's just going to more hey, this is the present. What are you doing in the future? Maybe how'd you go on your holiday? Something like that. But it is more surface level of conversation. The true relationships, I would say, you need to build up memory lane.
Do you reckon it's because the day-to-day life is just so mundane, or so, it's kind of rare you get real wins that you really need to talk about, and even if you do, people won't get it. One was talking about this invoice he received recently, and it was his first, and he's excited about it. I'm like, I don't know what this means. I can tell he's excited, but I don't know what it means.
But just important that. But then what did I do afterwards? I then compared it to something in memory lane, aka the first time we got a Boostagram.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, that's a shared experience. Now, it wasn't like either of us put down some heavy actions to make it a memory that, hey, that's an experience that happened at some point, but it's a shared experience that I put some association against it and compared it. Now, yes, I'm just recalling something from that's happened, but I think in more generality, there's things in memory lane that you either build consciously or it's generally the unconsciously built memories between relationships that can help strengthen those connections moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just wondering if the reason that you hang out with certain people is because you get better feelings from them and you go back to fun things that were, I'm struggling to think. It's very rare we've gone back to the times where we've experienced breakups, for example. I don't really ask you about that much. You don't ask me about that much. Does that make us bad friends? Maybe. Who knows? Maybe some people would argue that. But I kind of think that, the reason we go back to those fun memories is, maybe nothing much is happening at the time. We certainly do talk about the future or what's happening at the moment, but it's good to go back to those ones that are like guaranteed wins. It's already happened. And I find that the memories don't taint either. We can bring up some stuff like, one lighting things on fire in chemistry, and it never gets old.
No.
It doesn't. It doesn't lose its flavor because you've listened to the same story
multiple times.
And every now and then you get an old gem come up, like our friend Manchul pointing out kangaroos outside the window, which he brought up about a couple of months ago when I went to his place, and I was like, oh shit, I completely forgot about
Unlocked this memory.
Yeah, core memory unlocked. And so that's why I kind of think memories are good for that, just going back into and reinforcing good feelings between people.
Yeah, and spread it. So again, I'm talking, and some of it's going to come out as friendship, but again, whether you're a dad, whether you're a partner, it also comes down to that place of, I think, to build the right relationships, you want to be willing to build the memories as well with these. What would I associate a bad father or a bad dad? It would be if they were, for whatever reason, you did not build up the memories with that individual. Again, here being your kid. If you didn't build those memories, now, it might be for other reasons, like you're investing more time in your work or other things that you're doing. But if you don't put that energy into building the memories with them, well, you're not doing that. That's flat out what you're not doing, and then there can become issues in the relationship.
I would even say a bad father would be one who brings up old crap from the past, which isn't helpful. That isn't a good memory. There's times where I've dropped my dad's watch from the balcony because I was a kid, and that's what you do. Absolutely smash this, couple $100 watch, which is a couple $100, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's ever brought that up again. I remember it because it was just something that I did. But if he brought that up all the time, every time I did something wrong, and he was, as an example of how I fuck things up all the time, I think bringing up that bad memory is probably the opposite of what a good relationship is.
That's a good point.
You're bringing up unnecessarily bad ones.
Yeah. So maybe I would say, build up memory lane. Don't build up historical records. Don't build it up as the blockchain of your life where it's like, well, actually you did this and you messed it up. There's a 17th time. Stupid kid. Do it better. It's more, I think the great relationships is wherever you find them is the right build up of memory. And yes, interspersed with, suffering in the valleys, It's, if you want to visualize it, it's being able to recall the high points, the mountains, the local mountains that you find at other points that you can resurface, whether it's good times, whether you're celebrating and then you're bringing up things, or you're just in some crappy low point, then you go, hey, remember this? And you're kind of able to bring people from a different level, different energy. So that was one. That was one that I was like, okay, yeah, that's a good, different one than the usual one.
Nice. All right, I've got a question for you. So, do you need to proactively be involved in the other's life to be a good ex? So, a good father, a good pet owner, a good son, good daughter, good
I think you were
friend.
saying good pedo. I was like, fuck, that's a different relationship.
Yeah, no, not that. So, do you need to be proactively involved? I think I can guess your answer to this, but I'll let you mull it over.
In some ways, you do. In some ways, you do. But it is very dependent on the relationship type that you have. I think if it's like really long-term friends, I think it depends on the length of time that you have been friends, and also how often the connection requires the energy to keep it as a good relationship. Again, I've had friends who I still would call friends that I don't connect with all that often. You know, the energy that we go back and forth and whatever we're doing, it isn't that much, but it doesn't change the position of the friendship. Now, it isn't to say that maybe if I invested more into it, it would change it for the better, because that was one of my other points. But there's definitely some non-trivial point that's like, hey, you need to be at least connecting this much or else it's not going to really work. I could see it even in a good friendship group. If we left some connections out for a few years, there's some of them in that group that would be like, we might not make the energy anymore to really connect anymore because we just let that investment go, and that's where it eventuates. So yeah, you do to certain degrees. Obviously depends on the person, but even more so for sure on relationships, dad, partner, whatever. That's an even higher energy, I would say, that you have to be expending.
Okay.
What about you?
So for me, I would say proactively involved to be good. I wouldn't say you have to be super proactive. I think you can just be active, but I don't think you need to be really the one making things happen or really diving in. And so to illustrate this, here's another question. If you think this other person in your life is hurting in some way, should you kind of force the issue? So if you've, I've got a couple of examples here. If you have like a friend who has what you would describe as a crappy girlfriend, maybe they're in a somewhat abusive relationship, or maybe physical, verbal, whatever. If you have a loved one who's maybe making some health decisions that you think I'm not so sure about that. Someone who's got some ethical frameworks which you think are a little bit dodgy. Maybe they're doing some things where you're like, I'm not really sure you want to be doing that. If you think there is in some way getting themselves into trouble, maybe that's another good way of putting it, instead of hurting, should you bring this up with them and kind of force it? So this is once again being kind of proactive in the relationship. Yeah,
honestly, I'm going to say something that is probably not controversial, but maybe not as, I wouldn't say it's the prevailing like common thought. I'd say no. I'd say no. And in the sense of whether a friend, maybe I'd make a difference. So this is relationships in a whole. I'll make one caveat in the incredibly close connection of a partner. That, and maybe with your kids, obviously I won't know just yet, but I'd say that's the only boundary where you would probably breach that and actually be very proactive. Beyond that scope though, I would say no, because I'm not their psychologist. I'm not the doctor. I'm not their, there's other people that could be like that. I'm not their parent, whatever. They also have a life to live and the consciousness to do things. But I wouldn't deviate away from being the friend that I am to that friend. Case in point, I had a really good friend who went through exactly that process where they had a terrible relationship, where it was like verbally abuse and that sort of stuff. And we went through a big portion where I continued to be my normal self as a friend to him. He went through a process where for sometimes he just would stop talking for like 6 months because he'd gotten locked out of his partner would lock his phone, couldn't contact me. Yeah. It was like part him, part her. So I wouldn't hear. But when I able to reconnect, it was kind of a reconnection. And then I wouldn't deviate away from the friend that I'd been to this individual. Would it have helped if I'd pressed the issue and be like, hey, no, you got to get out of this. I've got to help you out like that? In parts, I think maybe. But in other parts, I think I was equally helped by just being a constant expectation of what that was going to be, not anything beyond or anything less at a quick deviation. I'm going to have to say, unless they're very critical in the connection of a partner and maybe kids, I'd say no.
Okay.
Honestly.
And this is similar to me, and I'll bring up a little thing which made me think of this. Why? So
yeah, that was an interesting one.
I came up across this meme recently, and it it kind of encapsulated my thoughts on this. So I'm gonna try and do this live here. So it was basically this meme, and I couldn't find the exact one because I think it was on 9gag or something like that. So I took this TikTok screenshot, and so basically it says. It's got a guy and a girl, and it says, trying to figure out how my boyfriend knows everything about Bitcoin, crypto, sports, inflation, interest rates, nutrition, dieting, etc., but never knows why I'm upset.
Yep.
And I thought this was a pretty good thing because it links to mind reading, which I'm not a fan of if people expect that from me. If you expect me to be able to delve into your mind and really know exactly what you're thinking and feeling, and not only that, but then how I should react, like what's the best way to react to that. So once again, this gets to the kind of classic thing between men and women, which is, a girl will be talking about something, bitch at work, colleagues, hair's falling out, whatever, body issues, and anything really. And the guy will be like, oh, have you thought about doing this? Really proactive, problem solving, solution orientated. But that's not what she wants. She just wants
to be heard.
Yeah, she wants to be heard. She wants to you to acknowledge her feelings, something like that. And so there's this difference, I guess, where even with the mind reading, and then it could be, well, the outcome of it. What do you actually want from it? And so this is where I go, like, I don't think it's acceptable to want or think that this is a normal thing that you should accept, or to be a good friend, I need to, or a good partner, I need to read your mind, and then not only read your mind, but know how to respond in the way that is beneficial. And so, for example, where did I? Yeah, be able to. I feel this is on them, that they need to be able to communicate more clearly. The girl from the TikTok, if she's sad, and the guy doesn't know why, she should tell him why she's sad.
True. I would spin it. I'll spin it the other way around though, into more like, I think you can take some ownership around this. Yes, there's communication, but I would say it's the opposite and I guess because it's a relationship, yes, it should be both ways, and you probably want to find the people who are like this. I definitely don't agree that you should be expected to mind read. I will float a little bit in the terms of like your direct partner and maybe your kids. Okay, there's a certain level of assumptions you should know about this person because you've got very deep connections here. If you know they do this action, you better believe they're going to do the next action, and you should be able to anticipate that. I get that as friendship groups or other people, maybe not as much, and maybe you don't have to assume. You can be direct and ask those questions. But in general, maybe the expectation shouldn't be. However, you should be in all of those. I think in a good relationship, friend, partner, family, whatever, you should have some tools or some abilities so that you can inquire to find out that information. Whatever, and those streams are very different, right? I'll tell you, in our friendship group, we probably assume a hell of a lot. And we don't really get into a lot of personal stuff unless there's very specific criteria where we will do that. It's rare. There's other friends, I'd never get to that. Work colleagues, forget it. Maybe sometimes. Family, okay, sometimes. And then, with my partner, definitely. There's a lot of that conversation. Weirdly, I can get really quite deep and insightful in some of the podcast conversations. The one I had with Tove, man, that was a really good conversation and opening up. I don't know what made it so easy to do that. I don't know. But I think you need to have, don't have the expectation that you're going to mind read. But I would say you should have the expectation that a good relationship means that you have tools and ways that you can find out that information or inquire into them.
Yeah, pretty much. So when I was thinking about this, I was thinking like, am I a good housemate, for example? Because I don't regularly sit down and inquire, how you going, and making sure that she's all right and things like that. Because we see each other fucking every day.
Yep.
But it's just not something where I'm like going to absolutely nail down and make sure. Let alone with her, which we're friends, but we're not really good friends. We're not friends like you and I are friends, or some of our other high school friends. And it's rare that I see them one-on-one. And so, should I be making the effort to go out and make sure that they're okay, and doing these kind of like one-on-one things? And once again, I'm kind of leaning towards, like, even just from a pragmatic standpoint, if you see, yes, if someone's behavior changes a lot, that's probably worth questioning and inquiring into. Yes, definitely. What you should actually do from that, though, I think from a pragmatic standpoint, is questionable. So, for example, have you ever done an intervention on someone where you have organized with other people?
Nah, never.
Or
Never.
even maybe a personal intervention when you've pulled them aside and you're like, dude, this is harmful. Like, I'm not sure this is really working out for you.
Yeah.
Have you really thought about this? Neither. I've never gone to an extent where I'm like pulling someone aside, and because you can do it obviously in other smaller ways first, joking about something which might be a.
I'll tell you even more directly. I had a friend a little while, like this a long time ago. He told me, "Hey, I've called men's health line last night. I really needed help. I wasn't in the right mind place. I'm feeling a bit better now, but kind of shared." I still didn't change.
You laughed at
I still didn't change how I behaved, because, like, maybe wouldn't say consciously, but just subconsciously. I think if I reflect on it now, I went, I still just want to be the same friend to this person. Same friend. Doesn't want to change. I don't want it to be different. It's cool. I'm just going to be constant. I'm not going to deviate too much away here. Some people might go, oh, that's where you need to reach out. That's where you need to. And I kind of go, no, you need to be the consistent rock for that particular person. Again, there's obviously extremes to this, that you would take some actions for some really extreme cases. But I'm going to go, in the generality, I'd go towards, no, keep the steady steel.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. That was a good thing that you brought up, I guess, was, I don't know how to frame this properly, the changing of relationships over time. Is that something that's to be expected? Like, a good friend would be able to adapt and mold himself to certain scenarios, or a good partner would be able to be like, let's say my partner got sexually assaulted, and she's being like really withdrawn, scared of physical touch, even with me, even though we've known each other for 10 years, whatever. How much would it be good to change? So in this case, you've said you wanted to be that consistent rock and like not change. Is that like a selfish thing on your part then? Or is that because you think that's the best for them? And this is where it's getting into the pragmatic sort of doing, is it best to do what you think is they might want superficially, in the sense like they're hurting, and so that maybe they're bitching about an ex-girlfriend or something, and they're just bitching and moaning about them, and you're like, okay, I can see they kind of want me to join in on this bitching and moaning about them, put the stab in the back, but you're kind of thinking like,
you gotta be the
probably for the best to not do that, because it's not healthy for them.
Well, here's
that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'd say probably here's a couple of points. One, on that first point, I'd say, I'm trying to think if this sort of system would break at some point. I'm sure it would, but I think the default is no, I'd still remain the same until proven otherwise that is not working anymore. And then you need to invest into the relationship in whatever way, form it is, so that it does make a difference. Again, that example of someone completely changing as a really close person, you'd still try to be the same. Perhaps you go, okay, well, shit, that's actually not working. Cool. Okay, now time to invest a lot of time to make sure that improves, and how do you fix it and whatever. Cool. Okay, that happens, and that can happen with friendships. But the second point that you were more talking about, which was, what were you talking about now? Just forgotten.
I guess the other thing that would be is getting back to you being able to change. And then I was thinking
yes. Sorry.
Right,
so that was the second point. So thanks for reminding me. For myself, I'd also find, like, in myself with other relationships, that I also change over time. And I've seen that in the conversations that I bring in over time, and then that becomes consistent. So over time, it's changed. But then as it changes, it does still become constant in some period of time. So what I mean by this, that example of, you're having a conversation with someone or a friend and you're bitching about people or in a workplace, something, dude, all the time. I join in. Let's go. Yeah. This is good because there was social capital. There was building in a community that you build this connection with. Where not completely devout of that now, but there's aspects of it I'm starting to change in just the way that I'm influenced and I'm looking at the world. Especially, once again, for me, I've got a little girl. She's going to be growing up in an area. Some of the areas that I'm reading and stuff like that, I mean, common sense too. Do you want her to grow up in a space where she hears people complaining about people and, making those things? Or do you want her in a space where you're taking ownership and you're kind of painting people in as much of a positive light or seeing other potential avenues? Whereas, hey, this person, they were doing this and whatever. And so, my natural tendency starting to become, not always, but it's starting to become like, perhaps I had a really shitty morning and something really bad happened and they just weren't there. Give them the benefit of the doubt or just separate yourself, that sort of thing. So, yes, it is like, so even for myself in my relationships with people, it's slightly changing. But in that change, it then remains constant for at least a period of time. So I'm not like some clown where all of a sudden one day it's this and the next day it's like completely different. So there is some rigidity, albeit some flexibility over time with those connections, even from myself to other relationships.
Yeah. I was just thinking maybe like the best friend would be one, or best partner, best relation would be one who is able to adapt, but kind of wants to drag it back to how it used to be in a sense. I know that kind of sounds bad and you're living in the past, but for example, with the partner who's now, afraid of you sexually, can't even manage the thought of interacting with you sexually or something like that, you'd probably want to adapt to that. Yeah, it's not like, hey, let's have sex tonight sort of deal. That's not going to go well. But you might be wanting to like try and go through therapy or ways to drag it back to perhaps how it used to be.
Yep,
and maybe even the vice versa. Maybe like they're bored with you and they want to explore out into all these like crazy different sexual fantasies and things like that. And maybe you're like, all right, yeah, if like the relationship's not going to work, it's not being fulfilled with you and me, just how it is, like maybe let's step and branch out. But we want to come back to the core. This is why we're together, sort of thing. This came up just because I watched the Mr. Nimbus episode of Rick and Morty last night.
Right, okay.
And Beth and Jerry were like branching out, trying to explore new things sexually. And then
is this in one of the new seasons?
Season 5, so it's not that new. Okay. But but then like it turns out like they're both just doing it because they think that's what the other person wants. Once again, but getting back to that mind reading, it's like, oh, I thought you wanted. No, I didn't really want this. Well, okay, we don't have to do it. And then of course the door opens and they go in. So yeah,
expectation setting, folks. Let's put a little bit of pause. We're going to go into the Boostagram Lounge before we continue on with figuring out relationships. Again, if you're live, feel free to drop in some comments, 7 p.m. Now, Boostagram Lounge is a chance for us to call out the people who are supporting the show through the monetary way of sending through Boostagrams, which is messages with Satoshis attached. Yes, there are people who stream in as well, which is definitely something that we get supported by. But here we just like to call out those Boostagrams as well. So I'm just going to jump in to those Boostagrams now.
So it should be from the 10th onwards is what we're looking at.
Onwards, correct. Okay, so
I can call out some streaming. We had MCKR, who was streaming the TJ Dorful episode. That was not too long ago. I can also see we had who was this? User 12059 blah 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 blah. Thank you very much. Change your username if you want us to call you out properly. And yeah, those were the main ones that I saw recently.
Beautiful. Now I got a couple here. I hadn't actually checked this recently, but there we go. We are a little bit full. So we got one. Call McCormick. I think podcasting is personal. It's a choice to do ads and get the biggest names for an interview like Williamson. Everyone copies Rogan, but he did it naturally, and the guests and topics evolved because he learns from those conversations. The most successful people adapt the strategy to the field and current challenges. The V4V show is a great opportunity to adapt to the new field that is V4V. That's a row of ducks, 2,222 sats, and using Fountain.
Oh, thank you very much, Cole. Yeah, I actually had something, I said, yeah, Rogan got so popular because he put in those years of work before he got popular on YouTube to do podcasting. So it's kind of like to follow what your calling is, I guess, is kind of what I took from that. And I was like, V for V is my calling. That's what I'm most interested in.
I was thinking about this and I was like, I want to be, in a few years' time, I'm going to be undeniably a mere mortal.
Okay.
Undeniably a mere mortal.
What does that mean?
And what it means is, because look at this, I don't want to be a copy of Rogan or a Williamson. I just want to be undeniably a mere mortal.
Okay,
me.
Yeah,
and a lot of that thing is, what's the things that are going to exemplify me through a conversation, through whatever I do? Even just off the back of today, I had a weird conversation just as I was leaving work. And it, by maybe a connection of one or two people, led to the Prime Minister of Australia. And it was something to do with some work that we're doing for the Prime Minister and like those little connections. And just ensured there was some conversations in the things that I was doing and just put, again, storytelling that has this particular person, who is not too far away from a very influential person to do things. And now, I'm not saying I was connected to the Prime Minister, but I am saying that I'm very undeniably mere mortal in the things that I do, and I do them well. I do them very well. So more of that. I want to have conversations where I'm talking to people, which allows me to do that. I have topics that allows me to do that. And so I think that will naturally go to value that people probably want to listen to in a value for value way. I'm broadening here. It's value for the listeners, and hopefully we get value in return.
Do you know what I want to be undeniably?
Oh, here we go.
The probably like one of no, it's not a silly one this time. The probably something like the undeniable V for V consultant or something like that.
Okay.
It's like if you want to know about value for value, how to implement it in your show, the philosophy or something like that.
Okay.
I want my name to kind of be coming up because people say like
we need a better name here because I'll tell you why. There's OGs of Bitcoin. I don't know if this is in other countries, but here in Australia, I know for sure all of them have nicknames.
Okay.
All of the OG Bitcoin guys have like particular nicknames. I don't know if it
was in like a handle on the Bitcoin.
Well, I don't know if it was that or it was something else. Like some people are like Bitcoin Dad, Bitcoin Greybeard. I know another guy's got like a
Wizard of Oz.
And I don't know if it's like they had names on a certain like forum or something like that. But we need something for like a V for V for you because it'll be like the V. No, I was thinking like V for V Guru, but it's gonna be something more catchy, you know. It's gonna be like
I was tempted to change all my profiles to V for V consultant and then have mere models after it.
I changed my Instagram handle to Juan_mere model.
Okay.
So,
that was
undeniably
good. You had
model.
_me or something.
Undeniable. Anyways, thank you very much, Cole. We got another one from Brian O'Leary. Brian O'Leary.
Brian
D. O'Leary. Yeah. Thanks. 100 sats anything found it.
Thanks, Brian. Much appreciated. He might be a no agenda guy. There's
okay.
I know there's a couple of Brians floating around there.
Oh, we got a couple of good ones from the undeniable Peter. We got Roll of Ducks 2222 sats anything fountain. Good luck. Happy New Year. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Another one from Peter. We've now learned why Kyron has an aversion to coding. It took your dad away from soccer time. It's all starting to make sense. Another row of ducks, and absolutely. So 2,222 sats.
If it was just repression.
Yeah,
just straight
just repression from not wanting to do it.
That was stopping me from coding.
Maybe.
And actually, I'm pretty sure it's not that, but
but maybe. And then a big boy, 20,000 sats using Fountain. Great conversation. Good luck in all your endeavors, Cole. So that's obviously the conversation with Cole.
Yeah, thank you. So just on that, you might notice that you actually probably got 6,000 sats for that because 6,666 actually, because the 30% that I had put in for Cole, Fountain's it's not working as good as it used to. So
Fountain, got to step up your game here.
Yeah, well, I'm chatting with Nick soon, so I'll actually bring that up with him. But not to worry. Cole got the message and he got the sats. So
good. Thank you very much.
It's all good on that front. But yeah, these things, they do happen. I'm
teething
working
issues.
on it.
Teething issues. And the last one here we got from Alan C. Paul. Great episode. I agree that the more advertisers and matters try to force themselves into the podcast culture, the more they will lose. As for YouTube, I consider my show podcasts that have a sub-channel on YouTube, but the audio is the main thing. When the accessibility and protocols are dictated by others, it ceases to be a podcast. Mm-hmm. That's 777 sats using Podcast Guru.
Thank you very much. And he might be one of those ones you heard on the Boostagram ball that you liked. Currently on the top 100 of value for value music. Interesting.
Shit, nice.
Wine. He's number 3 with Not Far Away with Unclassified.
Hell yeah. And honestly, dude, I am so surprised that I liked some of that music because I'm very sticky with the type of music that I listen to. I don't deviate too far. So
I'll play you 1 or 2 songs which have been my favorites, and well, you might hear them on the Value for Value show in the next month when I kick that back up. But yeah, I plan on
how
playing.
weird is that? Karen's about for. I'm actually genuinely keen to see this Value for Value episode because it's gonna be kind of like a radio show. That's what it's almost that level where it's a bit of music, bit of this.
Well, yeah, I will have Cole doing some quotes because I'll be doing some book.
I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun.
But yeah. Thank you, Alan C. Paul. Awesome to hear that your journey is going good, and who knows, we might cross paths at some point.
Exactly. Thank you very much, everyone who's been supporting there with the Boostagrams. A few more coming in. Obviously, Peter with a big boy boost.
Yep.
Helping out. Again, anything helps. Streaming, boost. Sometimes we go long weeks. Sometimes we get highs. Again, we're just trying to put out good value to you. We're going to continue to do that, hopefully, if you can continue supporting us. Yeah. That's what helps us out.
If you want to know how to do that, go to mereimmortalspodcast.com/support. And you'll see on that page, I've got a run through of all the podcasting apps, links to the podcasting apps, which I can include links onto because not all of them have a web-based thing as well.
Correct.
So just good ones. Fountain, Podverse, Podcast Guru are probably the 3 most popular at the moment. And I also have a PayPal link there if anyone wanted to use it. They still have not yet, so just saying. If you want to send us a little PayPal, if you want to be the first, you want to create that core memory.
Create the memory lane.
What were you calling it? Memory lane, yeah.
Fill up memory lane. Here's another one, a nicely, differently worded one. I think in relationships, we're talking about relationships and building good relationship. One makes one. I think bringing a snack. Bringing a snack to your relationship. Now, Karen
explain this
doesn't bring.
I'm not a snacker, so
you're not a snacker. But what does that mean? Generally, most people, if you go to them and you bring the snack, so I'm thinking workplace, you bring a Tim Tam, they're gonna have a Tim Tam. Your partner, at least my partner,
will they eat it in
Tim
front
Tam
of you, like straight away? That's what most people do.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe my family, other friends. Hey, I've got you a donut. Cool. Let's eat the donuts. Let's join in. But so. It's food aside, bring a snack. What I mean, I think in the best relationships, again, you to them and them to you, find the people or be the one where I think you need to bring the snack, aka bring the thing that the person needs because you know them through a relationship. I think good relationships, friendships, partners, again, kids, whatever it may be, you need to, 1, have invested enough in them that you know them to some degree, but 2, not so much reliably, but when you need to. Not reliably, but when you need to, bring them a snack. Bring them the thing that person needs. AKA, good friend Manshall. I'll give you an example. And again, this is not like manipulative.
What did he need?
But this is not manipulative. This is like out of a caring sort. I know, you know about this. Just he recently did a movement of a job profession, right? He's moving from one area to another area.
Did he? I didn't even know.
Yeah, so he actually got a new job. He's moving to a new job. He's moved off consulting, which he's done for many, many years.
Oh, shit.
Into a full-time, relaxed position, way higher pay, loving it. It's a massive transition for him.
Damn.
And so for me...
Did he post this anywhere?
He did. Yeah, he kept it very quiet.
Oh, well, what a shit
friend.
It
was kind of interesting. It was interesting in the sense that in this transition, my snack, what I would bring to him in this momentous occasion was
tequila.
Let's go celebrate in tequila. Let's go have a tequila. Let's enjoy it. Let's have a chat. It is what I know that he wants. The celebratory aspect, the congratulatory, the enjoyment. And dude, we had a great time.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, in that interaction of me bringing a snack, aka some drinks and good time and chatting, he then also shared with me that part of the idea of moving, and this kind of touched me a little bit. He was that, part of this I wanted to check with his partner, to make sure that I want to do this. But the other person he wanted to check if this job movement was right was me.
Okay.
He wanted to ask me, hey, should I do this or not? And I talked to him a couple of weeks back about this and whatever. And so in the act of me taking a snack, I guess a more deeper relationship was built out of me bringing this thing that this person kind of needed. And I thought, that's cool. Now, I can give you other examples, but I think it all boils down to other people, partners, families. Now, it's different in each place. Not every time do you bring a snack, the thing that the person needs, but I think you should be ready at the drop of a hat to bring what the person needs. Again, someone else, just at random, might be, hey, I know that they really like high energy. And cool, I can drop a start of a hat, I can be really energetic and shit, you bring them up. Awesome. Others might just be like, hey, they need stillness or quietness or just the ability of being like, no, shut the fuck up. We're going to go work out. Okay, cool. I can do that. Let's go. And they enjoy that. So, it's in the relationships that you care about. Do you want it to be a good relationship? Good. Be ready to be able to bring the snack when you need to. Not every time, though. I'm going to say don't bring it every time, because if you do it every time, then that becomes the norm and that's the expectation. So I would say that.
Interesting. All right, I've got something which is semi close to this.
Okay.
And I wrote this down as like, what is one of the most important things I would probably put above almost all others in a good relationship with someone else? And that is just being available, to be honest. So I've planning on traveling in the next couple of months, and I'll probably be away for like 4 months. That's the rough thought in my head. And I've been looking after my brother's puppy for a fair bit recently. And Butters is his name. He's a little cute ass golden retriever, and you'll see him on the screen. And I was thinking like, will he remember me when I go away? And I was thinking, because I'm not the best, I'm not the best trainer. I don't know how to train him well. My brother's got him doing all these cool tricks. He just learned the gun one, and you shoot him and he falls down.
Nice.
I'm not probably the most caring of individuals with him. Like, I'll play with him, but I'm not like matching his puppy energy by far. I can match it for a little bit, but I'm only going over like, half an hour twice a day while my brother's out at work to like look after him. I'm not the most knowledgeable on dogs. I'm not even the most perhaps loving, because I'll pet him, I'll play with him, but he's a little bit nippy at the moment, so I'm keeping like a little bit of distance. I don't want to get my hands too close to his mouth, because he's not going to like kill me or anything. But I've had trauma from dogs biting me in the past, and so I've
got audio proof of this.
Yeah, correct. And so I've always been a bit iffy with dogs. I'm actually becoming a lot better. I don't know if it's with dogs or if it's just with him. I'm thinking it's like just with him. But in any case, like I was going through all this, and I was like, okay, well, am I even like good to Butters then? Am I being a good, I don't know if you call it pet owner, or a good dog sitter? Am I a good dog sitter? And I was going, you know what? I do show up every day though. My brother needed me because he's having to go out to work. I live close, and I am available and free with my time to kind of go and do things when I want to do them. So, and I have been showing up. I haven't missed a single one, and I've been very open with Prennisons, just saying like, hey, if you need more help, like let me know. I can help out more. I do have the capacity to do that, and it has, resulted in me having to shift around some of my gym things. I'm typically going to the gym later now than I do. And sometimes I have to almost shorten a lesson or a lesson, a session, to kind of hurry it up, or skip going to a class that I might have wanted to go to afterwards, because it's like, I've left him alone for 3.5 hours. He kind of needs to go out again. So in that case, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm pretty good. I'm a pretty good dog sitter in that sense. And so, I think it's worth reiterating that saying that you're available to people, not necessarily that you want to help, is the difference, because you might not enjoy the thing it is that you're wanting to do. So, for example, I've made it repeatedly clear to my dad, like, if you need me to come home, just let me know, and I can look after mum. Or if you need to talk more, if you just need any help whatsoever, help out with mum, just let me know. I don't particularly enjoy it, to be honest. It's it requires me driving. I fucking hate driving. Everyone knows this.
Hates driving.
But the last interactions with mum, they've been more draining than they have been fulfilling. Recently, a couple of them have been pretty good. I've come out maybe net neutral. Okay. But there was a period there where it was like every time I went to see her, just drained my social battery, drained my energy levels, made me sad, and I was like, fuck. This is where it's like, well, what's a good son in this case? Well, I think it's one who maybe doesn't enjoy the process of seeing a parent like going through something truly awful, going through dementia and Alzheimer's, but I would still show up all the time as well.
Yeah.
And just reiterating that to someone, because once again with the mind reading, I don't know exactly how much help dad needs, so he's got to let me know. But just constantly kind of bringing that up. Hey, if you need help, not constantly, but at least probably like once every 2-3 weeks, I'll say, hey, if you need more help, like just let me know.
Yeah, maybe I'd refine it, or maybe it's similar, maybe it's slightly different, but dependability in the case of, again, it falls back on me of being still the same rock / dependability / the consistency in a relationship, whatever that might be, in whatever way it appears. If it needs to increase, then you still display the same dependability. So, especially with like the closest relationships, I would say, if you want to foster them to be better, say something and do the thing that you would say, but also be dependable. So, if you're saying, hey, I'm going to be doing this and I can do it for you, then be dependable and make that happen without, deviating away from whatever reason, because all of a sudden that becomes really, really important. But maybe it's slightly different because, showing up, I guess, is being a little bit more proactive and going, hey, I now need to just show up and be available, and making myself available for when the relation
I wouldn't even necessarily say it's proactive. It's just that availability aspect. Like I'd never want someone to not come to me with something which is a burning or pressing issue because they think I wouldn't want them to. Or something like that. Or just be like, I just want for people to think of me as the guy where it's like, okay, like, sure, Kyron would probably prefer if I could sort my own shit out, but if I really needed to, he's a guy I can go to, and he will be available. He won't just be like brushing me off or something like that.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. There's a slight other one that I was going to say, but maybe it comes into that where it's a relationship, again, whether from yourself or the other person, but built on less of judgment or jealousy or enviousness or narcissism to openness, curiosity, understanding. And so there's a lot of things there, but just keeping it simple. I would want a relationship, whether it's a friend or a partner or another person or my kid, where they are coming to me or I'm not coming to them with a apprehension that the idea is going to get rethought or judged or questioned in a non-helpful manner, or I'm gonna be made to feel X in a negative sense, as opposed to, I think, a good relationship, at least that I see, is one where, yes, it's factual, not necessarily, I don't want pom-pom, yeah, hooray, you're going doing really good. No, if it's not going well, cool, let's try to keep it factual. Like, I would want the factual part of it, but that it comes from a compassionate, caring, wanting to help perspective, as opposed to a negative, jealous, envious path where none of this doesn't have to necessarily cut down. But if you're hearing this and you're kind of like, oh yeah, maybe I've experienced this with a friend who didn't really want that success from me or didn't want that, then you can feel it. And so I'd say, just in generality, it's those relationships where you want more openness, which then I guess allows more truth and factual seeking aspects of it, as opposed to maybe the pretending, like an almost social media type connection. There's the other mentality I was thinking of is, I think that at some point or another, most people will have quote unquote friends who are more social media-esque level or more digital friends who are such surface levels that you're both just showing the best to each other. And so I would say you're not really a relationship as like a friend to friend, or you're like a very I don't know what I would call it, but it's a very surface level digital relationship where you're only placing forward what you want to be absorbed, not the reality of what lives within and the deepness. You miss all that. Kind of like if you're learning a language and you learn how to say something, you're missing like all this underlying core understanding, or from a sentence or something. In a similar sense, I'd go, there's some aspects of whether a relationship is like a very, very digital surface level or just comes from like a different perspective. There's some of those aspects which I'd go, I don't want to invest in those relationships as much, or put a lot of weight to those relationships, I guess.
My roommate's been learning German because she wants to go to Germany, and she was telling me, and she started doing some like proper courses, like some intensive stuff.
Oh, okay.
Here.
Yep.
And she was just saying, one of the problems with Duolingo is you just don't know the grammar. I don't know why you say it this way. You just say it this way, and that's kind of the analogy. The Duolingo of relationships.
Yeah, that's probably a good one.
You kind of know it, but it's you don't know what's deeper underneath. And is it really going to help you? It'll get you to a certain level, but there's a barrier where you'll need to cross if you really want to learn the language or be better friends with someone.
I like that. Maybe, and it's not to say that you don't have Duolingo relationships. You can have them. They're just surface level, and you accept them.
Portuguese for a while.
Yeah, as long as you understand that they have these limitations. And then if you want to transition them to, book level relationships, deep and meaningful 20-hour, interview relationships, you got to put the effort. You got to put the investment. So be aware of that.
Okay. Just my final question here is, when have been the times when you've been not a good friend or not a good partner or not a good relationship, and what was it that you were doing or was happening that resulted in that? So for me, the times where I've been the worst, I don't know if you'd call it like boyfriend or the worst friend, was probably been when I've been just very selfish, like really looking after myself, thinking of only what I want, and not even, I guess, trying to think about what they're going through or just thinking in the relationship that we have as very serving for me.
Yeah, I had the exact same point, and the way that I read up, on the positive side, it said it's us, not me. But so in the opposite, when hasn't it worked out for me? Same thing. When it's been it's me, not us type of deal. So there'd be plenty, but there'd be a lot of times in the past when it's a very self-serving, egotistic, hey, I'm kind of doing this, but I want to see this investment happen for me, and you're going to help me do it. I guess like an example, just like a random example would be like if someone helped you move house, and maybe they helped you move house 3 times and then do something else, but then you kind of never reciprocated and didn't do anything when they were kind of reaching out or whatever. Okay, that's probably a bit where it's like it's very much a me, not a we. That's probably on them on a relationship. That's probably should be calling it out. But obviously, vice versa. If you were doing that and no one's reciprocating back and you kind of feel shitty for it, okay, that's probably an aspect where it's more of a me, not a we, that's happening in that particular relationship.
Yeah. And you can be on the negative side of this as well. You could be doing all these things for other people to be building that social capital that they should be helping you in the future, and that sort of thing. Yep. And that's not what they're about. But it's also equally on your part that you're being kind of a little bit manipulative in what you're trying to do. So
honestly, I would call bullshit if anybody in the world would have say like, oh yeah, nah, I never did. Like I never did. For sure, everyone's done that in some way, because you have to learn. How are you ever going to push against known boundaries or rules if you don't try to break them at some point to know that, Everyone would have at some point be like, okay, well, maybe I can manipulate, or I can do this, or I can say this to get this, and actually not have to reciprocate. And then you learn. You get away with it lots, cool. You go down a certain path. You don't get away with it lots. You learn that you probably can't do that.
Those I've found you can get some short-term gratification, but it'll just end up causing you more stress, more harm in the long term if you're treating your relationships in that kind of very the opposite of value for value.
Yeah,
so
but
you expect the value first.
But the gangrenous part of this is that there's a lot of people who have probably continued to do that all their lives, and it's still served them well.
Yeah. I mean, that's just
gangrenous. I'd say it's on the inside. Like it's you're the only one who knows that what you're really doing, and everyone else might not see it because they don't. You're well keeping it and whatnot. I'd say that's less of a relationship problem, and then it'd be more of a hey, that's going to become a you problem and how you retrospect on your life and whatnot. But I think that's a separate thing altogether.
Ethical problem.
My final one I want to bring out, so another different one, try to call out a different thing.
Sure.
It's similar but slightly different. It's a group of us, not a group of me. Now, in another sense, it's be willing in good relationships. We want to build relationships. Bring more people to the table. In a kind of selfish way, you can be like, well, I have a friendship with a friend or my partner or a kid. I think in a really great relationship, you have to be willing, prepared, even to the point of offering it, to try and bring more people to the table, to expand the table for that other person, so that it's not a group of me. And when I say a group of me is like, if I think of a relationship of it's me and then there's this connection, but it's a group of us. It's a group. It's a community. It's a system. Whatever you want to call it. I think to build the right relationships, you have to be prepared that you also want to connect those people to other people and let them breathe the success or the happiness or the joy that comes out of it, and not want to just remain it as a group of me. AKA, yeah, you're fulfilling my things, but I don't want to connect you to the other person, because then that means you're going to go and connect to them and you're not connecting with me. So there's like a slight deviation, but I think in really good relationships, if you think about it, I think there's been some in the past where it was like a group of me. Like I've had a friend in the past where, and I'm not a friend with them anymore, where it was very much like, hey, I really like hanging out with you and it's good fun, but I don't want to connect you to my other friends. I don't want you to go see other friends. I enjoy being with you and doing these things, and as long as it doesn't change too much, that's cool. And realizing it probably now, I go, yeah, that wasn't the greatest of a relationship, because I didn't want them to also connect with other people or have other benefits that go beyond that I could be doing. So yeah, part of it either holding back on that relationship for other relationships because you, I guess, in the end maybe are selfish or you want to keep it to yourself. Whereas in some really great relationships, I've seen it's the cool, not being afraid of interconnectedness, of sharing another joy, in getting them to build up other connections through your own connections. And I think those in many myriads of relationships can work really well. And it's the base of, building a good network. You want networks to expand and have this system of connecting. And you're sure they know you through the connection, but you want to build it large. And if you try to keep it so much centralized to yourself, well, the network's not going to be very big. So kind of letting that network branch out and do its own thing without the worry that that is a negative on you. In fact, it's a net positive overall.
Yeah. It was you and Manshur going out behind my back a negative thing for our friendship as a total? Obviously. But
obviously.
But no, it's good because you guys can create and do things which I wouldn't want to be part of it. I don't want to go out and drink and get what did you say?
Get lit.
What? No, you didn't say get lit. You used another word, which is really funny. It was like sloshed or hammered or whatever. Man, language is so funny. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go out and like absolutely ruin my sleep and just screw up the next day to do do
To be fair, I didn't either, but we met a multimillionaire. That's how it goes.
No, totally agree. It's that gets, I guess, back to the selfishness thing, or that's maybe not even selfish. It's just like egotistical. If your relationship to me is only defined by our link and not a secondary link elsewhere, like that's probably not.
Well, I think, and here's a bit of a summary for me. It's as it stands today in my short lifespan so far, I have seen that in the best relationships, they are only strengthened, not weakened, by the more connectors that you can build around them. Kind of like a lattice, right, of friendships. One-to-one connection, you have 2 points and one like joint, it's pretty good. But, with certain stresses and movements, they could probably break. But if you start building a lattice of your network, of your friendships and your connections, sure, they all don't have to connect to each other. But in a really strong lattice, motherfucker, that's going to be real strong. And then if you're able to continue investing into the right ones, then maybe you can make the core ones like indestructible, and then the others still keep connections, and then you know which ones to let go and which ones you're not investing. And I think that, to me, visualizes for me like the type of relationships. It's build the right ones close very strongly in an investment, and also recognizing that when I look at it visually, there's not a picture of just me. I'm just a point in the network, and that gives me lots of benefits. And I also have maybe the energy to be able to build that. But in the end, it's a system, it's a network, and it's that full network working all well that builds the right relationships across the board. Because it's not just what you feel and talk about when you're with people. It's what does my best friend and another friend, or my partner and my dad, or my mom, or my sister, or my daughter think when they're talking to other people, which then connects back to me, and that keeps that relationship going, because then that's positivity that you're exploring beyond just yourself. So for me, I'm like, I look at it more that way. Yes, be less egotistical, being less selfish, be more communicative, I'd say, yeah, that's probably going to build some good relationships.
Yeah, no, good point. The friendship group that I built outside of you guys is very dependent on Brendan. He's kind of like the linchpin between me and many of the others in our group. And even though, we all went out, for example, on Sunday to the beach and spent, almost half the day
Did you jump off the bridge?
I jumped off a bridge.
I know exactly which bridge it is.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you were going to jump off it or not. The
so-
video didn't show it. The video didn't show
it
it.
didn't show it. The video did not also show that after that, we went back up for a second round, and my friend almost paralyzed a kid by jumping on top of him. It was probably about that far away.
Mate, needs to get better next time.
Yeah, it was. That was one of those.
I've
holy
seen
shit
one
moments in
person
life.
jump off that and had to get picked up by a boat. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I wonder if he did it.
Yeah, I jumped off the bridge. It wasn't that high, but it was. It was probably
like 2.5 stories.
No, it's like
More?
2.5 meters, man. It's not tall.
Oh, I thought it would be like 5 meters something. Maybe. Perception.
Yeah.
Perception.
It's
In any
not so tall.
case. Yeah, no. So you have that friendship group, which I guess there is a linchpin connection to the many through the one.
Yeah, and look, my roommate is I met through that group, so there's a connection there. But they don't know my family like you do. They don't know my brother like you do. They don't know some of my exes like you do, and other friends have. So yeah, it's very much a bit different in that respect. It's certainly not as strong as this group is.
Well, and honestly, so this would be, I'm going to give people homework if they want to do this, because I've done this before in a work sense, so I know this from a work perspective, but you can use it in a relationship perspective in your personal life. It's, if you want to, don't do this for freaking everybody, because fucking that's going to be painful, but do it for like your core key connections and some others. And in that same way, draw the lattice, draw the network, and you might find that, hey, I've got, do the connections of me to someone and that's a strong, and then me to someone and that's a weak. Keep it simple. And you might see like, oh shit, there's like this friendship group over here, like you're saying, and there's two connections that are really strong, and other connections that are weak. And maybe those weak ones have more strong connections with this other one. Just to see or to know, like, oh shit, if that connection didn't exist, that person, I don't know, died, left, do whatever, that whole branch is going to fall off. Kind of like those games, those bubble games where you throw little balls and green hits green and like a whole side fills. You could see that in our friendship group. I'd say in the lattice, I can tell you, they're all fairly like interconnected and strong. Even if one of us like completely left. One guy from the group, I mean, not super friends, but one of our friends went to Europe, like kind of like they lived there, like out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. It's not like it breaks anything in there. We're all kind of interconnected. It's fine. There's a lot of lattices going through strongly. But in other relationships that I have or group settings, dude, if the one person goes, I'm not ever seeing these people ever again.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
And so it's also for an awareness of being like, okay, do I need to invest something in here to build that lattice a bit closer, to build the relationships? Do I care enough to all the stuff that we just talked about? Do I bring a snack for each person? Do I show up for each person? The answer might be no. It might be cool. If that goes, fuck it. Yeah. Doesn't matter for the rest of it.
Yeah, or even just my summary would be just thinking about probably the best, who's going to be like the best lover, the best dog owner, the best friend, brother, sister, whatever, all those sorts of things. It's probably the person who thinks about if they are being good enough. And, this is where it's just, I guess, like cutting through the selfishness. If you're thinking like, am I good enough? That generally means you're not being selfish.
True.
It means you're probably thinking about other people more. And Tim Ferriss has this thing where maybe there's different for him because he's so widely connected and has that kind of little fame component where people want to hang out with him a lot.
True.
That he had to like actively just think and sit down and be like, what are the 6 to 10 people who are just, they bring me joy. Every interaction with them is pretty much a good one, even if we're talking about negative things that are happening in our lives and things like that. And he was like, oh, yeah, there's like 6 of them, and damn, I should make more effort to hang out with those 6 rather than the other 50 who could be part of my life, but are they actually bringing me more joy? Am I a better person because I hang out with them as well? That's probably the last point. You want to hang out with people who make you better. So
true.
Being a good friend, like half of it is relying on you to be available, be dependable, not be selfish, all the things we talked about. Then the other half is just like they just got to be good people as well.
True.
You know,
Yeah.
you can't be.
You want to hang out with them. You want to hang out with
you can't really be a good friend with, you know, someone who's a real shithead, I guess, in a sense. Like, you can kind of...
Well, here's the simple stuff. Like, you know, you want them to have similar comedic timing and comedic, you know, styles. You want them to be fun. You want them to be someone that you enjoy being with, all this sort of stuff. And I wanted to keep it, like, go for some new ones, but all of those have, like those base foundation ones, you have to play. You can't go home and, you know, I want to tell a joke with my partner, and if she's like completely different levels, you know, it's going to reduce the relationship in some ways. So you have to try to find those things in the first place.
Yeah, definitely.
More lights.
I'll do this value for value section. I've been thinking about this recently.
Okay, here we go.
This is a value for value podcast for those who don't know. And so you might have been asking, you know, what was that section in the middle? You deviated away from the topic. So the value for value essentially means that we do all of this work, this podcasting up front, and we create a product which we hope is valuable for you, that you enjoy, whether you get some entertainment, some good ideas, or even a connection with us. We do all that up front, and we just ask that you return that in some shape or form. We don't do advertising nor sponsorships nor anything on the back end, sell you a product, a mere mortal thing or whatnot. And the reason we do that is because we want to keep this open to, I suppose, give our ideas to the fullest extent that we can without external influences, which certainly would happen if you have a sponsor. Or I was just listening to a podcast today. I was doing research prep, and they had like 5 different ad breaks or something like that, and it was just awful, man. It was so bad, and it happens rarely to me nowadays because I don't venture out as much as I used to.
But when you do, you're like, oh.
It was rough. And so how do we get, money to continue doing everything that we do here? Well, we just ask that you return the value in some form. And so it's not necessarily just money. We ask for some of your time. So sharing this with a friend, perhaps giving a topic suggestion that you would like to hear on the podcast would be very much appreciated. Doing it through some talent, particular sections that you find interesting. So if you were to clip this, for example, on Fountain or Podverse, that would be, and share that clip, obviously would be great. But even just clipping it would be amazing, because then I'd know, oh, you found this section interesting. This is something I hadn't thought about that was really worthwhile, or a point of view which I thought was just something that I threw out. And then maybe you're like, no, that's the gem, that's the gold. So doing something like that, a talent, identifying things would be very much appreciated. And then finally, the treasure. We've talked about sending in a Boostagram directly in the podcasting app you're listening in. Go to a new podcast app, newpodcastapps.com, and choose one from there to be able to do that. You can get in touch directly with us. No need to go through any of the intermediaries like Discord, Facebook, Instagram, social media, whatever. Right. But you can join those as well if you want, and you'll get some updates on when we release things.
There you go. That was in depth.
Yeah.
Once again, finalizing it, we do go live at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, so we are live on YouTube at the current time. In the future, we're probably going to be going live on audio as well in the apps. But for now, you can join us there. So for those who are listening there live, thank you very much. For those who are listening to afterwards, feel free to come and join the party. You're always welcome. But for now, we're going to leave it there. Me and Mortals, thank you very much. One out.
Current out. Hey.